Welcome to the Steering Change Podcast, navigating through the commercial transportation industry in Alberta and beyond, powered by the Alberta Motor Transport Association. Here's your host, Kelsey Hipkin.
Hello, my friends. It is that time again. Steering Change's second year as a podcast is coming to a close. In 2025, we covered a range of topics from real-end safety to driver professionalism to the Class 1 learning pathway to safety as a journey. We've talked to guests from across North America and have had you listening every step of the way. I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone who's come along on this journey so far, from our listeners out there on the road to our gracious and knowledgeable guests and the AMTA team producing Steering Change. Without you, we would never be able to meet transportation and safety professionals where they're at in sharing information about this great industry. For this final episode of 2025, we will take a look at the year that was. We'll touch on a number of important topics to commercial transportation in Alberta and beyond, including tariffs, strategic direction of the association, and what industry could look like into the new year. Today, we're joined by Tim Bennett, AMTA Board Chair, Durand, AMTA Immediate Past-Chair, and Robert Harper, AMTA President. Tim, Riel, and Robert, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
To start, I'm going to have you each tell me a little bit about yourself. Tim, I will start with you.
Good afternoon. Currently chair of the board for the AMTA. Been on our board since 2018. Real life, I'm Senior Vice President of Operations for Barnhart Canada and look after our North American assets and operations. Barnhart's a large crane and heavy haul vendor and over 74 branches. Definitely tied into our industries on both sides of the border, and look forward to talking to the group today on what we do and what's hitting our industry and what the year past looked like and what it looks going forward.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. And Mr. Durand, you have been on the board as long as I've been with AMTA. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes, I've been involved with the association for probably 25 years at least, several committees, and then joined the board and been on several parts of the board as well. Further to that, I've been in industry for 44 years. So it's pretty much been a transportation background continually since the beginning.
You're a lifer.
You bet.
And Robert, can you tell us a bit about your role with AMTA?
Sure. I'm just celebrated my second anniversary as president of the AMTA. Been with the AMTA for 3 years. I was the controller before that. My background is as a professional accountant and did that for 30 some years. Across a various spectrum of industries.
Perfect. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Let's dive into some questions. We're going to I'll start with you, Tim, and then we can have Riel and Robert provide their input as well. Can you describe the past year and how recent events, trends, and more specifically, the Canada-U.S. trade tariffs have impacted the transportation industry?
Yeah, it's been a very challenging year. I think none of us anticipated what we would see coming out of, the president change in U.S. operation and policy. Donald Trump is not predictable in some senses and predictable in others. The tariffs impacted everything we do. We move a majority of goods on the backs of trucks everywhere. Every bit of essential life is moved by a truck. And so when we start adding tariffs to anything, whether it's automotive parts, whether it's food, whether it's oil and gas, whether it's just basic commodities, the impact to supply chain is real and does hit. We've seen, shipper resistance, not wanting to jump in on the uncertainty, so that slowed down shipments. We've seen pricing wars impact what we could bill for and put as rates on what we're putting out there. We've seen uncertainty even in oil and gas, so fuel prices and the basics of just fueling and powering our units going up and down the road. Right down to the tires and lubricants that we use just to maintain our fleet. So this uncertainty has shaken a bunch of us. It has seen a market consolidation, so smaller companies definitely took merit in looking at whether or not they're going to pass it down to the next generation or sell. A lot of the smaller companies sold off. A lot of the big companies struggled with right-sizing their fleet, and it definitely shook it up. What we have been seeing towards the majority of this year is some certainties have come through. We've seen some better equipment decisions being made. We've seen some change up in industry, so we're not meeting an EV mandate. Those certainties have come off. We've got a change in Canadian government, which helped bring some certainties of what's happening in that pricing market on as we look at modernizing our fleet, and we'll talk about that later in the podcast. But just some of the differences that we have out there. So this uncertainty was the biggest thing that we played with, and in the markets, I think we're starting to see a trend of where it's going. We've seen some new projects and directions coming to life, some new items that the two countries, as budgets just been read from the federal side in Canada, we kind of know where that's going to land for next year now, and have some areas that we can explore as companies and industry to say where are we going to go and how we're going to invest. And then, of course, the Canada-US has solved some of their issues. Mexico has strengthened. So we do know we've got some goods that we can move, and it's not all doom and gloom. It's actually given us a little more direction. But the first half of the year was definitely a very challenging one from my viewpoint.
I'll go to you, Riel, next from an industry standpoint, and then we'll do Robert from more of an association standpoint.
Yeah, so the industry was already struggling prior to the tariffs, regarding unfair competition when it came to the driver Inc. model. So the industry was stressed on that, and then the additional of the tariffs has definitely impacted us a second time with freight volume issues and competition issues, where it definitely impacts the market negatively. Of course, in every negative turn down that we have in industry, there's normally a positive comeback, and we're looking forward to that in the future. We don't see the light at the end of the tunnel yet, and traditionally when we do have these types of slumps, we're able to see the light at the end of the tunnel a little bit quicker than we have in this last one. So it's been the most difficult part, I think, in my whole history of trucking.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Riel. And Robert, from an AMTA standpoint, how have things been?
So one of the things that it's really focused us on, or helped us with our relationship with the government, the Alberta government, has been helping to identify barriers to internal trade. So we've done a lot of work trying to help the government understand what the differences are between regulations, what the impacts of infrastructure in terms of the regulations, and what needs to change in that. So we've done a lot of research helping the government, helping policymakers understand, if we're trying to go offshore to different markets other than the U.S., what that's going to do to help improve the economy by, reducing those trade barriers, by, strengthening the economy that way. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And we've, helped, I think, educate the government on what sort of some of the paths and some of the obstacles they should be addressing.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to stay with you, Robert, for this next one.
Sure.
Were there any surprises, positive or negative, for industry in 2025?
Well, the whole tariff thing was a surprise. That's quite obvious, as the Trump administration came in, and those on, off, higher, lower, that has been a monumental impact, as Tim and Riel have said it. Mm-hmm. Not just these announcements of changes, it's the uncertainty. We're putting them in this date, and then, we're delaying it another 60 days, and then we're negotiating. Anytime you have that degree of uncertainty, that's probably the biggest surprise, rather than, knowing that you have a date, that there's something going on. It's that continual fluctuation. I would say that's probably the biggest surprise that came up, and I would say that was mostly negative. In terms of positive aspects, I think it's, I think we've established a good relationship working with the Alberta government, and I think that continues to help us advocate on behalf of the industry with them.
Absolutely. And Riel, surprises, positive or negative this year?
So, Robert already mentioned the tariffs, of course, mm-hmm. as the main issue. Positives, I'd say we are on the upswing on dealing with the federal government when it comes to misclassification of employees. I think it's headed in the right direction finally, after an awful lot of lobbying to get there. And I think that's going to be a game changer in the near future.
I'm going to dig into that one a little more with the three of you. Just as a shout out, AMTA has put together a 3-video series on YouTube about Driver Inc. I'm going to stay with you for a second, Riel. Can you tell us a bit about what Driver Inc. is and how it does affect industry?
So Driver Inc. is the misclassification of employees. So what happens is the employer pays his employee as a contractor instead of as an employee, even though he functions completely as an employee within their organization. That enables them to not follow the Canada Labour Code and makes the employer significantly more competitive in the market by up to 30%, and then takes away all the rights of that employee and all the protections they have from the Canada Labour Code, which was put in place to protect those employees.
So, Robert, I'm going to come back to you for a second. You've been working with, AMTA has been working with industry a lot on Driver Inc. We've seen campaigns from the different Western associations, CTA, the Canadian Trucking Alliance. They have been doing a lot of campaigns on this too. Just why the drive, and why do you feel that it's finally really come to light in 2025?
The main drive is that for those companies that use the Driver Inc. model that Riel says, it puts a 30% competitive advantage, and it's really driving business towards what are an unscrupulous business model that tends to abuse employees under the guise of independent contractors. Now, they don't get any of the benefits of being an independent contractor. You don't really get the upside. All you get is potential downside. A lot of the late drives, I mean, we've had blitzes at the scales, the provinces working with the province, helping them educate. They've helped identify the issues with the drivers. I think some of the education that industry's been doing has filtered into the driver community to understand the risks and what they're seeing in terms of abuse and actually understanding those. And I think, in the last week, we've seen really positive announcements out of the federal government. We believe all of these, both, our own CTAs, the provincial governments, and the driver community have been pressuring on the government. And I think it's a combination of things that's actually finally pushed the government to react and try to address this issue.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, we will have details on that federal announcement in our show notes, so you can read up on that. We are recording on November 6th, so that'll be a bit in the past when you guys are listening to this. Tim, I'm going to come to you, bit of a two-pronger. If you have some perspective on Driver Inc. and then positive or negative surprises for industry this year.
I echo everything that my colleagues have mentioned. Driver Inc. in the easiest, simplest terms, it's human trafficking. It's taking away rights. It's undermining guaranteed incomes and benefits from individuals. It's really been unscrupulous type of activity, and it leads to all the other aspects of it. If they're willing to do that on shortchanging an operator or a company into doing things, are they maintaining their fleet? Are they training the people? Are they doing all that other stuff? So it really is a black eye to industry. Industry has come together across the country to tackle it. We've got government support all the way up to the federal level, engaged and willing to take steps now. It's not the awareness and sit back and talk about it. It's actually taking steps to move forward to it. So great to see that come to life and gain the traction, so much so that it's in our federal budget and it has been talked about at several levels. Surprises this year, I would add to that we've seen is, as all these tariffs hit, it created an ability for Canada to look within the provinces and say, how do we take the barriers down on trade from east to west? What can we do? And it allowed us to look at what are the hours of service. Are we aligned across the country? Are we aligned on licensing? Are we aligned on cargo securement? Are we aligned on all our rules? What are our barriers? And have fundamental groups coming together on all the different economic corridors and talk about what do we need to do different? How do we stop? How do we prevent the U.S. from coming in and hauling and creating an unfair advantage when province to province can do it? How do we move goods without all these extra costs and additional rules? And if the rules make sense and they're protecting and they're creating security and safety, absolutely they stay. If they were just an erroneous red tape, how do we get rid of it? So a big surprise, that was an outcome that I think helped accelerate. You know, the industry had been talking about it for a bit. We didn't see it getting traction. It definitely got traction and attention with the tariff talks. How do we do it better in Canada if we only have to serve Canada?
And staying with you, Tim, can you touch a bit on how strategic direction has evolved in the last year?
You know, and I won't rob too much of Robert's thunder on this. I think, you know, for us, it's been coming back and looking at things holistically. What can we tackle as an industry? Where should we go? What makes sense? You know, less about setting the direction, more about what is a need, where do we need to go, how do we get there, has been the focus. And I'll let Robert drive in and give a little more of the detail to that.
Sure. You know, we've probably changed a little bit. We've got a relatively new management team at AMTA. And I think in the last year, we've helped set what are our capabilities and strengths as an organization to be able to assist industry and affect change. And, you know, one of those key things we've identified as you know, we have to be a trusted and reliable partner with industry to build bridges with government, with other parties, in order that we have win-win relationships that AMT can help build with those relationships and wins for both all of industry. So I think we've taken a bit of a different view of our capabilities, and we're trying to move on that basis. And one of the things we're trying to do going forward is trying to broaden out our services that we offer to help support industry beyond our traditional health and safety services, to see if we can provide greater benefits and broader services that help all of industry.
Perfect. Thank you, Robert. And speaking of going forward, Riel, when it comes to the future of industry, how have we approached fleet modernization, especially regarding sustainability and alternative fuels or in-cab technology?
So from the AMTA standpoint, we've supported innovation in a big way. A few examples would be 2022 vehicle showcases of Nikola and Hyzon, introducing AMTA members to hydrogen fuel cell, which is ongoing at present. Hydrogen, carbon recapture. AMTA operated 4 fuel cell vehicles, 2 hydrogen diesel trucks, and 32 carrier members being able to use this equipment and being able to real life test it so that the industry knows what it's getting in the end. Mm-hmm. We operate CVs in the city of Calgary here as well. We did a 6-month trial, and it was quite successful. BVs are not as much of the focus right now, I would say, but definitely part of the future of greening up our world.
And from the perspective of in the truck, what have you seen in your time in industry, from whether it be improvements to the cab, maybe ELDs? What kind of improvements have you seen there?
Well, there's been significant changes, like on a yearly basis. You know, disc brakes are popular now, but for the longest time they were not. Automatic slacks were, you know, the start of the changes of technology in trucking to make things better for our drivers and for the road safety specifically. They're always enhancing that technology, and there's probably too many to mention. But in-cab communication technology is, you know, there's various different options there as well that make it easier for the dispatch to stay in touch with the drivers, mm-hmm. and the rest of the organization for that matter as well, from safety to, seeing eye cameras, making sure drivers aren't falling asleep on the street while they're going down the road, getting warnings before they fall asleep on the road, mm-hmm. and being able to keep the general public safe.
Thank you, Riel. And I'll throw to you as well, Tim, just what you've seen as far as modernization in cab technology-wise, either any of the above.
You know, we were fortunate. We were early stages looking at platooning different technologies on autonomous and playing with the technology at the earliest days, doing the test beds and looking at it. that gave birth to a lot of the new modernization that's out: lane departure warnings, lane controls, good autonomous forward-looking camera and infrared camera technology that was used in aircraft that now gives better warnings, feeds into the systems and into the trucks. You really are driving a high piece of technology. The old days of manual windows and gear shifting have changed to automatics and a lot more modern technology, a lot more pre-warning, a lot better visibility on it, better lighting. The list goes on, and we're seeing that next generation driver coming ready and armed for it. It's not the era I grew up in, but you're not going to attract unless you advanced. And the industry has evolved, the technology's followed with it. We're seeing advances in better roadway control, better anti-slip technology, so on and so forth, being added in as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. I'm going to come to you, Robert. We have covered any surprises, positive or negative, but let's talk about some wins or achievements that you saw come to fruition in your capacity with AMTA this year.
Sure. Some of the stuff we talked about before about raising awareness on Driver Inc. has certainly been, I think, a big win. The scale blitzes that tech has undertaken was largely because of our education with the government. They even did 3 days, I think, last week at Leduc, doing those scales. One of the other ones we helped pick, the old PIC Partners in Compliance program went away. With our discussion with the Alberta government, they replaced it with a Carrier Excellence rating, the ACES program, which gave similar and good benefits to carriers who have those excellent ratings. Otherwise, the tech didn't plan to provide any incentives for that, which I think was a good win for industry. So we've been working on changes with the carrier profiles on a national basis and provincial basis, trying to upgrade to eliminate chameleon carriers. We've had that education we've talked about before on trade barriers. Mm-hmm. And as Tim referred to, it's not just regulatory, it's also there's infrastructure, like certain roads in different provinces don't support the same weight. So even if you get the regulations aligned, you still need to upgrade the infrastructure. And, I say the attention to the Driver Inc. has been a huge win, I think, from industry and all the associations.
Great. Thank you, Robert. And for those listening who might not know tech that Robert is referring to, that's Alberta Government Transportation and Economic Corridors. Riel, same questions, wins or achievements you might have seen come to capacity in 2025.
I'm pretty much got the same list as Robert. Of course, the focus I have is the Driver Inc. file that is significant, and it's been a 9-year battle. And seeing it come to fruition right now, I'd say that's going to be the biggest win for transportation industry in the upcoming months and years. We fix that problem, we're gonna fix a lot of things.
Awesome, thank you. And Tim, same question to you: wins or achievements?
If I take a broader view, it's our alignment with the government. Our partnership hasn't been stronger than it has been now, and we were strong before. We're a trusted partner of our government. We're asked at every adjunct, whether it's a wildfire, what can we do to help lessen the burden, what's the impact, whether it's a trade dispute, or simplest as to how do we improve logistics and remove barriers between provinces. We're trusted partners on it. We're working on innovation and ideas on advanced driver training and credentialing towards the trade. We're working on different committees and strengths to tear down those barriers between provinces, work on infrastructure. We're invited at the table at the Council of Motor Transport Association Administrators, so the CCMTA and CTA groups. We have a voice at it, and we're bringing our strengths, our successes, and we're learning from theirs as well. What our other partners have. So it's not just only an Alberta made in Alberta solution. We're taking the best out of all jurisdictions and both countries, Canada and US, and trying to bring them here and bring them to life. So that's a lot of our wins that I've seen come together.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'm going to stay with you, Tim. Let's look ahead. What are you most optimistic about for industry heading into 2026?
I think as we climb out of this uncertainty and we're heading into some more certain times, we've got a budget in place, we've got governments in place. we're past the days of having protests and barriers on the roads. I think it's now, how do we get back to work and grow our economy, prove that, we can move goods from east to west in Canada alone and not have as many struggles, and then moving goods everywhere else. So in 26, I think we're going to see market climb. We're going to see economy grow. The consolidations that took place through this year will come to life, and we'll see how it grows. And we're going to have a stronger, better trained driving force. Those will be our successes in 26.
Awesome. Thank you. Riel, what are you optimistic about heading into 2026?
So I'm thinking that once the tariff issue settles and the American public starts paying the price for these higher tariffs, I think things will level out in that laneway, and we'll get back to some kind of normalcy on north-south traffic once we get back to what normal is going to be in the future.
Mm-hmm. And to you, Robert, same question.
I'm going to touch a bit on where Tim ended, which is we're hopefully in 2026 we'll be the first province with a designated trade for commercial drivers, which is a big win for the industry, and it could eventually lead to a red seal. Alberta being the leader, having been the first ones there, we're hoping that'll get approved by Advanced Education shortly. And that's a big win, I think, for the industry.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'm going to segue into winding down. I want to thank the three of you so much for your time today. Riel, especially you, leaving the executive. It's been a minute, and it's been a pleasure working with you, as always.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to do one final thank you, and then we will go with Tim. Is there anything you'd like to add as we close?
No, I think we've captured a lot today. Look forward to a strong 2026 and where our industry can go. The biggest thing we want to part with is we represent our members, and we can't without hearing from them. So we encourage, as much as you've got these podcasts, to hear what's going on. Sharing your thoughts and ideas forward for us to represent industry is key.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tim. And for everyone, we will have some contacts in the show notes as well, should you wish to reach out. Riel, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think this podcast is probably going to be a great way for us to get our message out to our industry, specifically those who are not involved in our association, and what value that they can get from the association going forward.
Awesome. Thank you. And Robert, finally, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah. We talked a bit about in-cab technologies. AMTA's Dave Elniski wrote quite a dissertation on that. That's one of those resources that we make available. It's one of those reasons that I would encourage carriers to take out a full carrier membership with AMTA to participate in those types of studies. And sure, you put the link into the
Absolutely.
how they would get Dave's report. It's very comprehensive and tells a lot about that. So I think that's all I'd like to add. Thanks.
Okay, wonderful. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Hope we'll
Kelsey.
see you again.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.
In closing, let's go with some AMTA news. AMTA's 88th annual conference takes place April 22nd, 23rd, 2026 at the Grey Eagle Event Center in Calgary. Registration and sponsorship is now open. In tandem with conference registration, be sure to check out AMTA's award nominations. Award winner prizes include tickets for two to our awards celebration, a night at the Grey Eagle, and a cash prize. Please do start thinking about who you could nominate today and check out amta.ca. Nominations close on February 13th, 2026. Do you have any questions or comments about the Steering Change episodes? Reach out on our Instagram at AMTA_CA or LinkedIn and Facebook at Alberta Motor Transport Association. Wishing you and yours a safe and happy holiday season from all of us here at AMTA, and all the best in 2026. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of AMTA's Steering Change podcast. The views expressed by guests of the Steering Change podcast are their own and may not reflect the views of AMTA, its hosts, or sponsors. Did you have a question that you would like answered on an upcoming episode of the Steering Change podcast? We want to hear from you. To submit a question to the Steering Change mailbag, hit up our DMs on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram with the hashtag SteeringChange, and your question will be answered either live on the podcast or by one of our SMEs here at AMTA. We ask that you share this episode with those in your network that could benefit from what we discussed today, and make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform so you can be notified when future episodes are released. You can learn more about us and our mission by visiting www.amta.ca. Now get out there and have a safe day.